Cruise news time, and wow, a couple wild stories today. The first is a couple that were kicked off of a cruise ship for what they claim to be a case of mistaken identity or a case of it wasn't us. Kicked off. Interesting. Another couple who booked a dream football vacation that is now challenged because of changes in ports of call. We have a cruise company out there that's, they're bringing back another one of their cruise ships, pushing forward the cruise restart. And another company in this time of financial turmoil that they're calling their company a cash generating machine. A bold statement from an industry that's struggling financially. Which cruise line is it? Cruise news and my views. Shall we talk about it? Let's talk about it. I got a Fruit Brute update too. All right, let's go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Lido, Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news updates, cruise news and my views for Friday, October the 7th, 2022. It is the weekend, y'all. Do you have any big weekend plans? Eventually, I'll be traveling late weekend. I'm hitting the road on Sunday, and at some point, I'll end up in Jekyll Island, Georgia. Does anybody know anything about Jekyll Island, Georgia? I don't know. We're just going with some relatives who say it's a cool place. What should I check out in Jekyll Island? This is the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. What band is that? I know I'm not doing it justice. All right, cruise news story number one. An interesting article out today in USA Today, and they're talking to Christopher Elliott. Christopher Elliott is the guy that started the Elliott Advocacy Group. This is a group that advocates for people, especially challenges in the cruise space. We've talked about them before. And the article's super interesting because it chronicles times that you may leave the cruise ship early, whether by your choice or the cruise ship's choice. And they kicked the story off with a couple who were accused of treating a crew member poorly. They were called to the captain's office and they were kicked off the cruise ship without any opportunity to protest. Their tickets had already been purchased for them for airlines. They brought them to the captain's office and said, look, if you don't get off of the cruise ship right now, you're not going to have a way to get home, and we're not paying for anything after that. And so they were kicked off, and they say it was because, they were near a crowd that was being mean to a crew member. Either way, at the end of the day, the whole incident was reinvestigated, and the cruise line stood behind their kicking the people off the cruise ship. And that's a reality out there. The article's interesting because it points out reasons you may have to get off a cruise ship. And one of those reasons is you could just get kicked off by the captain, by the cruise staff. It's in your cruise contract. You can basically get kicked off of a cruise for any reason. And I think it's important to mention, so you got to be on your best P's and Q's when you're living life at the sea. Do not fight with crew members. Do not be a jerk at customer service. There's a right and a wrong way to do things. And if you take it too far, the cruise line could boot you off. Now, an interesting thing is another reason you could get off the cruise ship is you're just not having a good time. You may have gotten on the cruise and you don't like it, and when you get to the first cruise port, you could actually get off the cruise ship, and the cruise line on many circumstances will work with you to help you get home. Go to customer service. I'm not having a good time. I want to go home, and many times they will help you go home. Another instance highlighted is you may have an emergency at home that would predicate you needing to go home. I think the big takeaway from this article is that there's going to be times where cruising's just not working out for you. It was, you booked a cruise with the best intentions, but you got on the cruise and maybe you weren't happy with the cruise. Maybe you have an emergency at home. There's going to be opportunity for you to go home. This is one of the reasons why I advocate for cruising with a passport opposed to a birth certificate. If you have a birth certificate, you can't just fly home. So you can cruise with a birth certificate, closed loop travel, that kind of thing. But when it comes to flying from a foreign country, you have to have a passport book. You can't even fly home with a passport card from a foreign country. So again, a lot of things chalked into the story. Behave on the cruise ship, they could boot you off. If you're dissatisfied on your cruise, you could go home early. And if you're going to travel on a cruise ship, use a passport so that you could fly home if need be. Let me kick it over to you. Have you ever left a cruise early? What was the circumstance? How hard was it to do? Have you ever gotten booted off a cruise ship? Leave a comment below. Leave it down in the bottom. All right, cruise news story number 2. We've got another cruise ship coming back to service. Back to service since the pandemic. what do we want to call it? Like, every time I mention the pandemic, there's several people are like, oh, I called it the wrong thing. Are we in the endemic? Are we in the end game? Has Thanos snapped? I don't know, but you get what I'm saying. There was a time where there was no cruising because of the shutdown, and now we're at a time where there is more cruising and cruise ships are coming back. So whatever label you want to put on that. We've got a Costa cruise ship coming back. The Costa Favolosa, Favolosa, the Costa Favolosa, returning to service after a 31-month hiatus, a 31-month no service. How about that? She's going to start off by doing short 3-night itineraries in the Western Mediterranean. She's going to depart from Tarragona, going to sail to France and Italy with planned visits to Marseille and Savona. And then they're going to do a longer cruise. They're going to be going to Italy, Spain, France, Morocco, Gibraltar, all that in October and November. But the big takeaway here is we have another cruise ship that was not in service, now back in service. And this is inside the Carnival Corporation umbrella, a company that is struggling financially. We're going to talk about another company that's calling itself a cash-generating machine, but this is good to see another ship for Carnival Corporation becoming revenue-generating again, and this time it is the Costa Favolosa. You say tomato, I say tomato. What do you think? It's exciting times. Another cruise ship coming back into the fold. Cruise news story number 3 about another couple who booked a theme cruise, a cruise based around football. And we're talking about international football. We're talking about soccer. It is almost time for the World Cup. The World Cup is the crown jewel of the football world, of the soccer world. It happens every 4 years after an extensive period of qualifying. And this year, the World Cup, kicking off in November of 2022, will be held in Qatar. Now, during the pandemic, Azamara Cruises, which used to be owned by Royal Caribbean but is now an independent entity owned by a company called Sycamore Partners, they started marketing and selling a World Cup cruise that would spend 3 days in Doha, which is the capital city of Qatar, where the World Cup event is happening. So our story revolves around the couple in the UK, very excited about the potential of seeing England play in the World Cup while going on a cruise. They've secured tickets to several matches in the World Cup. Well, they've recently been notified that the whole World Cup part of their World Cup cruise, well, it's been canceled, and it's been canceled because of some changes there in Doha. Doha has decided that they do not want cruise ships stopping there during the World Cup. Azamara reaching out to their guests, informing them that the stop at Doha has been changed, and now they'll have extra days in Abu Dhabi. But again, this cruise was pitched as a World Cup cruise. But if you look at it, I mean, there's really nothing Azamara could have done about it. They could not have anticipated that the rules would change for the host city. And so they're doing everything that they can to help these folks go to these World Cup matches. They're trying to arrange transportation for people that have World Cup tickets to get to where the matches are, and they're offering a full refund. So the cool thing is, if people specifically book to go on this World Cup cruise, and now that things have changed, they're going to let people get out of the cruise and get their money back. The people in the UK, they're still talking to the news outlets there, saying, wow, this is horrible, I can't believe this is happening to us, which is an understandable sentiment. You've got all this hype built into being able to go to the World Cup through a cruise ship and all that, and then everything changes. I can understand, but I'm not really sure who they should be mad at. I don't know what else Azamara could have done other than what they're doing, trying to get arrangements made. It's a tough question. They still have the tickets that they purchased for the World Cup match. Question is, can they sell those tickets and recoup their money? They certainly could get their money back for the cruise. What would you do? Would you try and wait and see if Azamara has a way for you to get to these matches? Or would you try to sell your World Cup tickets? Should this couple be mad? I don't think they should be mad at Azamara, but what do you think? Leave a comment below. All right, now I got to tell you about the cruise company making the bold statement that they are a cash-generating machine. But before we get there, let me quickly invite you to subscribe. If you like staying up to date with everything that's going on in cruising, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these episodes. Look, we're trying to get to 200,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So please, if you're out there on the fence deciding whether or not to subscribe, it doesn't cost anything. The only thing that happens is YouTube sends you a notification when the new videos come out. It helps us out, and we would appreciate it. Please consider subscribing. Also, I did get in the group cruise shirt. So we're going on a Halloween group cruise. This is the Lido Loca Monsters of the Lido group cruise shirt. And this back is different than the ones that I showed you the other day. Let me throw up a picture of the back. This is just for people that are going on our Halloween group cruise, but I have launched a new Monsters of the Lido series, and the Monsters of the Lido series also has fangs down here, and some really cool monsters. Captain Frankie, Sailor Zombie, and also the Ghost Pirate. If you want these for Halloween, or if you want these for fall cruising, I think the monster shirts, they really work all year round. I think if you order still, you can still get them in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But yeah, you might want to order today if you're trying to get them before a Halloween type cruise. But I think they're cool shirts either way. Check out our t-shirt shop if you would like that. And then also there's a carousing t-shirt up there. And shout out to everybody that's picked up some shirts over the last few days. Can't wait. I've ordered my Sailor Zombie. Once it comes in, I will show that to you. All right, which cruise company is touting itself as a cash-generating machine? This one's not hard to guess. It is Norwegian Cruise Line. Norwegian Cruise Line made some really savvy moves as they moved through the pandemic period and then into the post-pandemic period. And one of the things that they've done unashamedly is they've said, look, we're not going to cut prices to get people onto cruise ships. And we've seen other cruise lines doing that. We've seen cruises advertised from other cruise lines as low as $29 a day. But what NCL decided to do is to continue to market their cruise ships, fill them up as much as they can at a good price point, and continue to drive their way toward profitability. The other thing that they've done is they've decided to not go out and raise money to pay off debt that they have coming due. They looked at the numbers and they said, look, we have about $1 billion of debt due every year, and they have $12 billion of debt. So it seems like every year for the next 12 years, but looking at their business, their cash flow, the money that they're generating, the way they're holding onto their pricing, they're like, look, we can pay off $1 billion in debt every year and still get to profitability. Again, this is drastically different than what we've seen from other cruise lines who are trying to raise money to pay off debt that has high interest rates, has, some challenging debt. This isn't unusual for NCL to be proud of the fact that cruising is a profitable business. I like the transparency there. We've said it before the shutdown. There is a lot of profit to be made in the cruise business. Nobody could have anticipated the pandemic and the shutdown, but it still does not negate the fact that cruise and cruise ships and cruise vacations can generate a lot of money, and big up on NCL calling themselves a cash generating machine. How does that sit with you as a consumer? Look, that's the dance, right? We know that businesses want to make money. We know that we want a good value for our vacation. Is it offensive to you that they say, look, we have a cash generating business? Or do you respect the fact that they say, look, we're going to give you a good vacation, but we're going to make money doing it. We're a for-profit business. Me, I'm like, I like it. I like the transparency. I like it better than the hem and hawing, like, oh, we just want to give you a good value. And look, they're like, no, we're going to give you a good product, and we're going to make some money doing it. I respect that. What do you think? Leave a comment below. Now, quickly, let me talk about Fruit Brute. I was offended when I ran into this Fruit Brute character at Target, and I said, how dare you add another character to the triumvirate of Frankenberry, Boo Berry, and Count Chocula? Where the heck did Fruit Brute come from? Is this a new incarnation? And a lot of folks reached out and said, no, man, Fruit Brute was around in the early 70s. Now, look, I was born in 1971, and so by the time I was probably the snotty kid in the cereal aisle, it was probably like 78, 79, saying I want some Count Chocula. So maybe I missed the whole Fruit Brute thing. Maybe it was like when the Beatles had that guy Stu. I think it was I don't know what he played, but then, he wasn't in the band anymore. Like there was a fifth Beatle, and maybe that's when Fruit Brute, and then there's some other mummy thing. There might have been 5 of these General Mills characters, and apparently Fruit Brute did not sell well, but a lot of folks in the comments said Fruit Brute is delicious. So now I am tempted. I'm tempted by the Fruit Brute cereal. I'm tempted to go back to Target and pick up some Fruit Brute. Maybe we'll try that on the show next week. So thanks everybody for the correction that Fruit Brute was in the cut when I was a little baby child. But now I know, and no one's half the battle. G.I. Joe. All right. Boom, that's your cruise news. Thank you so much for checking out the show today. I sure hope you enjoyed it. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And look, please do me a solid and hit the like button. And unfortunately, if you do not hit the like button, well, I'll be forced to punish you, and your punishment will be this. You're going to sit down to a nice big bowl of sugary sweet cereal. You're going to put some ice cold milk on it, and then somebody's going to call you on your phone, and it's going to be a call that you have to take. It's going to be like your mom or one of your kids, something like that. And then you're going to talk to them just long enough that your cereal is going to get soggy. And I hate a soggy cereal. Now, I know there's some weirdos out there that love a soggy cereal. Are you a soggy cereal weirdo? But look, that's the punishment. Your nice, beautiful Fruit Brute, crispy. I don't even know what's in Fruit Brute. Your Count Chocula, when you come back to it, it's going to be soggy Count Chocula, and nobody wants that. Hit the like button. This is Tony for Lido, Loca. Have a great weekend, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido.